As a mom who's also a big reader, I read 8 books in February, and we should talk about some of these. First book I read this month was Fairytale, and I had seen this book all over my TikTok, so I came in very excited, and it was around 800 pages, and let me tell you, it was 500 pages too long. The book is kind of a paranormal, gothic, creepy town romance, and it was just, the plot was all over the place, and personally, I couldn't even keep up with the pacing. I legitimately had a notebook where I was writing down all the characters and all the side plots because it just kind of went back and forth through too many timelines. And for me personally, it just was not a good read. I know people on BookTok, they either love Fairytale or they hate it, and I am in the camp of I did not like it. I also do book journaling, mainly because I have a goldfish memory, and the second that I read a book, I brain dump it. So here is kind of the premise that I wrote for Fairytale. Basically, you have Darcy. She's an English teacher, and her dad dies. So she's to go to this town called Fairytale to go receive his will. He has abandoned her for years and years, but he left her a will. But in Fairytale, strange things start happening. People just randomly die all the time. There's really weird residents. She then meets Caleb, and he is kind of strange. And that's all I can say is he's strange. And she falls under his spell. But then at night, she dreams about this other man named Eamon, who she has like this intense chemistry with and this intense vibe. And basically you kind of learn that she has like this past life, and she's been a lot of people, and it is crazy. Then she finds herself trapped in Fairytale. She's trapped in this web of lives, and she can't leave it because if she leaves the town, then she can't get this money. And now there's also like a coven of witches that are trying to kill Eamon, and let me tell you, the book read unhinged the entire time from start to finish. I'm pretty sure there wasn't a time where I was like, I'm having fun, but I'm stubborn. So I read it the whole way through to say I gave it a chance, and I gave it 2 stars. Book number 2 that I read was Irreversible, and it's written by Jennifer Hartman. And if you have read her book, Still Beating, it is very similar vibes. It is a dark romance, forced proximity, there's kidnapping. I'm gonna say this is not as good as Still Beating. It is definitely just, a lot of the plotline is kind of cringe. Both of these characters have been kidnapped, and they're stuck in a room next to each other, and they need to try and escape. And it was kind of good. The first half of the book was really good, and then the second half kind of just fell flat. I gave it 3 stars. I say give it a chance if you're interested in that kind of trope, but if not, I would skip it. Book 3 was from my Instant Buy author, Abby Jimenez. This girl can do no wrong. This is her Part of Your World series. I'm pretty sure it's book 2. I read the entire thing out of order, but you should kind of read it in order because there's kind of like Easter eggs and like all the characters kind of arc together. It's not important. You're not going to miss out on anything, but you'll pick up on more things if you read it in order. I love this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. You have a Dr. Brianna. She's going through this like awful divorce, and she meets another doctor at work named Jacob. And at first there's just nothing. She just wants nothing to do with him, and he's kind of rude to her. But then he starts to write letters to her, and they have just such a fun romance. It also has a really good depiction of anxiety, which I really appreciate. I feel like not a lot of books do that, but Abby does a really good job of describing social anxiety. And this was just fun, fake dating. It was cute. 4.5 stars. That leads me to my next Instant Buy author, Emily Henry. And I've got to say, I have read almost all of Emily's books, and I'm pretty sure between Funny Story and this might have beaten Funny Story out for the top. I ate every second of this book up. I gave it 5 stars. This is just such a cute, like small town, big city romance. It just read so well. I basically was just kicking my feet, giggling, laughing. This just took me out of my head. And when you're in the stage where you're just kind of either in a book slump or you just need a romance to just get you out of your head, you want to have like a movie in your brain, Emily Henry or Abby, they both do a really good job at this, and this book was just so good. Basically, you have Nora and Libby, and they are sisters, and they both live in this city, and they want to go to a small town, and Libby makes like this bucket list of everything that they need to do in this small town to like have the most of this sisterly experience. And the bucket list is so Hallmark. It's very cute, like date someone from the town, go like rescue a small business. And then in this small town, Nora encounters an old colleague of hers that she kind of, I don't want to say it was like enemies to lovers. I definitely think it's more friends to lovers. I don't feel strong enemy vibes, but they didn't vibe well in the beginning. She meets Charlie, and the rest of it is just the cutest romance. Charlie and Nora are so well suited for each other. This was just a 5-star read. Give it a chance, especially if you're in a book slump. Definitely read Book Lovers from Emily Henry. After that, I took my first little foray into a sports romance. I think I read like Pucking Around, and I got like halfway through. And so I thought maybe the sports romance vibe isn't for me, but I love Ali Hazelwood. I have a lot of fun reading her books. I have read Bride from her. So when I saw that she came out with Deep End, I was like, you know what? Let me give it a chance. I went in blind. I knew it was a sports romance. It's about a swimmer and I think a diver. Either way, they do swimming, some type of swimming. And basically, Scarlett starts to date him, even though he is her teammate's like ex-boyfriend. And it's kind of, I guess you would say it's a forbidden romance. It's a little bit steamy and there's a lot of drama. I think like the last couple of chapters of the book just were like really stressing me out with how much of a miscommunication trope there was in there. But all in all, I had fun reading it. I gave it 4 stars. And if you're looking for a sports romance and you like Ali Hazelwood, I would definitely give this a chance. I know some people, they either love Ali Hazelwood or they don't, but I always feel like if you go in just for a good time and you're not looking for like the best writing ever, this is fun. It is fun, it's lighthearted, and it's a good little sports romance. The next 2 books I have heard all about. Basically, I've been waiting to read these. I read the Crimson Moth duology, and this is a fun YA romantasy. So if you are just getting started into fantasy and you want something that is not a complicated world building, it's not super steamy, it's just a fast-paced plot and it's a lot of fun, I definitely recommend this duology. Basically, you have Rune. She is the granddaughter of a really powerful witch, and she's a witch herself. And she is kind of like a vigilante for all these witches because they live in the Republic where they're hunting witches. And she starts fake dating Gideon, who is a witch hunter, but Gideon is also fake dating her because he's trying to catch the vigilante and he has a feeling that it's her. And so basically this book kind of takes you through their story and everything that happens. And I'm not going to give it away, but I do think it was a lot of fun. And if you're into romantasy, I think it's a good foray into it. It's not complicated. And my favorite part is it's a duology, so there's not like 6 books in the series that you have to kind of keep up with. Sometimes a duology is so nice because it's short, it's sweet, and it just kind of wraps the story up nicely, and you're not like dragging on and hitting like the 3rd or 4th book slump. Looking at you, Throne of Glass. So yeah, definitely recommend this. I loved it. I gave it 4 stars for kind of both books. It wasn't a 5-star read, mainly because I wish that there was more romance, but given that it is YA, I think that there was just enough. Though this book was definitely a little bit more romance than this one. Finally, the 8th book that I read is Siblings Without Rivalry. I am trying to make it a habit of reading at least one like self-help and bettering my motherhood book a month. And this month I thought, let's do this because I'm raising siblings and I'm an only child and my husband's an only child. So we're out here flying blind. And I wish I could say that I like this book. I gave it 3 stars. I feel like even that was really generous. This is the same author of How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. And if you remember the premise of that book, it is basically like these parents are in a therapy session and the therapist, the author, is explaining how to like handle the kids and ways to respond to them, ways to respond if there's conflict, ways to handle them. And it's all a therapy dialogue, and that didn't work for my brain. It read so cringy. Like a lot of the examples, I was just like, parents were talking about like clobbering their kids, and just the parents were acting like they were like 10 years old. And so it wasn't very believable for me. And so I had a hard time kind of just like being into the book when the examples I just could not vibe with. I couldn't understand them and it just didn't resonate with me. I do think that there was some good portions, like if siblings are fighting, to not intervene, to let them figure it out. Otherwise, they rely on you to intervene. And basically it teaches them how to have conflict resolution without you in there, unless the fighting, of course, is not productive or violent. And it talks about treating siblings kind of separately. And you know what? There was a portion that I did enjoy where it was, don't lock children into a role. And that probably was the biggest takeaway that I took from this, because sometimes I would say, oh, you're a really picky eater. Oh, you're shy. Oh, you're dramatic. And I learned I probably should not do that in my parenting, because it locks your kid into a role and it makes them feel like that's who they are and that's how they have to act. So I will say I gave it 3 stars for that little tidbit of advice alone, because I could resonate with that. And I was like, oh crap, I do that. And that probably isn't helpful. That probably isn't productive language. So instead, what you are supposed to do is focus on their positive things. So if they're picky eaters, for example, you would say, oh, you just know what you like to eat. That's great. Or if they're shy, you wouldn't say that. You would just say, oh, she'll say hi when she's ready. So yeah, so I give it 3 stars. If you want to, I would check this out from the library. I wouldn't spend a lot of money on this. And if there are better books about raising siblings, or if there are any parenting books that you really, really enjoyed, I definitely let me know in the comments, because I'm trying to find my next read. I think I have one, it's called like Extraordinary Parenting, and it's about how to like raise kids while also being a homeschool parent. At least I'm assuming that's what it's about. So that will be on my March reads this month, but overall, it was a decent reading month. If I didn't have Book Lovers from Emily Henry, I think it would have been a really disappointing reading month. And March is already starting as kind of a disaster because I'm reading like a trashy dark romance, and I know better than to do that. But sometimes after reading a lot of fantasy, you just need to go to dark romance. Anyway, so that is all the books that I read in February. I am updating my reading journal right now, so I need to do all of my February recaps. I need to add the last book to this, and I need to kind of do all the little recap right here. And then when I read a book, I kind of do like a little blurb about it. So if I really like the books, they get their own spread. So yours truly and Book Lovers get their own spread. So I know I need to do one for Deep End, and I don't think I'm going to do one for Siblings Without Rivalries, because I just don't really care to have a little blurb about it. But yeah, so that's my reading journal. If you want to see more about it, you can let me know, and maybe I'll do like a flip through of my reading journal and everything that I am including in it. But yeah, that's everything I read this month. And in the comments, let me know what was your favorite book in February and what was your least favorite.